This is the Alt-White Show with your host, Stickaround Brown, now on Grievance Gordy Show. Grievance Gordy Show. Grievance Gordy Show. Don't you know? That's right. Try not to get too much reflection in the glasses. We're going to be taking the mick out of the alt-right today. That's mostly what I was looking at and watching on this device right here. In case you don't know, this is a neurological stun gun. People have been using this type of stun gun, for over 20 years that I know about. Okay. And take a look at the last week's episode, and I talk about the DHS and their Stasi tactics. That's exactly what it is. When you're relying on quote unquote informers, then you're going to get a bunch of people lying. You're going to get a bunch of people targeting an individual. And so I kind of lived through all that. I wrote a book called Two-Legged Animal. During my show, I'm really kind of doing my second memoir. Okay. It would have been called I, Son. My name's Gordon Douglas Eisen. And I used to call myself the Giddy because we are our own cryptocurrency. Okay. We do have equity, right? And I believe that AI that's ascribed to us, even in the panopticon of, right? The panopticon of your city center, they know it's you they know it electrochemically. This is what I believe to be true. So you can have a mask on, you could cover your face, you could either have your phone or not. Okay. Take a look at the looting that's been happening. They allow for it to happen so they could see. They allow people to create this destruction. And now what's happening is a lot of businesses that gives them pause to close, when the fact is these giant corporations were going to close anyway. Okay, because they were going to close because people are getting things sent to them through the mail, through Amazon, right? Through the mail, through other. And don't forget, I'm really into Thomas Pynchon, and he has a book that's about these mail carriers actually being their own CIA. Right? It's great. It's The Crying of Lot 49. I'm into Thomas Pynchon now. I'm 57 years old. I never read any of his books. I read about him. I'm into film, so I'm into Paul Thomas Anderson. If you ever want to see a taste of my life, take a look at Punch Drunk Love. And I have older sisters, and I was completely browbeaten. It wasn't like I wasn't allowed to talk, but there was never any chance for me to talk because they were always usurping the conversation. So I would try to interject with jest and jokes, but I am no stand-up comedian. This is a film by Gary Oldman. His answer to, what's it called? Leaving Las Vegas was his answer to being hit to alcoholism. And I relate with this a lot more, even though it takes place across the pond. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan in the 1970s. I'm a writer. All my writing is going to be pinned. Thanks for watching. Take a look at this. So this is a not so cute alcoholism, acute alcoholism. So this reminds me of my childhood. I love film. I love cinema. And that's why I'm in. And you can see his friend is aping basically everything that he says. His friend doesn't have an opinion. I've been around people like this. These are what you call NPCs. He's enabling him. Ray Winstone, the great Ray Winstone, great actor, amazing. There you go. There's the violence right there. Okay. So he's making threats. Okay. And the neighbor sees, because that's what neighbors do. You're supposed to look out for each other. Watch. See, there's the neighbor. Okay, that's enough. I can't get enough Ray Winstone, but maybe for this show. Right. So there's the neighbor. This is kind of what happened when I was growing up. Very similar. My father was an alcoholic, and he would come home and be very abusive. Sorry, I'm trying to look as spiffy as I can. And back in those days, getting a domestic or getting a DUI was very rare. Okay. Nowadays, it's writ large. Like, I actually called the police one time. I just wanted to get my stuff. I was in just another bad relationship with two people drinking. I was used to it, and I want to get my stuff and leave. And they took me to jail. And because of that, when I was down in Florida, I couldn't buy a weapon. I was scared to death down in Florida. I talk about this quite a bit. My wife was part of a Cash for Smells op, and it was designed to get me to commit suicide. And that was in 2017/2018. And we could see the people who did, and it was suicide by hanging. That's the impulse that I had. We could see the people who did was Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell, Anthony Bourdain, and Kate Spade. They all died the same way. Okay, I just watched something with Chester Bennington, and he's from a band called Linkin Park. He was in a band before that. Just like me, he's a beeraholic. No big deal. Likes to drink alcohol and do a couple bong rips. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. That is part of the rock and roll lifestyle. And I watched an interview with Chester Bennington on the Heavy channel, and he said the same thing. He goes, in my life, I just keep seeing the same things happening over and over and over again. And it's really true. I call it the recurrence. I got that from Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. Okay. And so what happens is you're clicky, swipey, scrolly, likey. It's going to be sending you confirmation bias. Okay. And I believe the same thing happens when you're looking at pornography. When you're looking at pornography, what's happening is the AI that's attributed to your channel, okay, actually, that's how you get indoctrinated. Okay. So this is on my playlist. It's called Cinematic Expressions. I'm really into cinema. I'm here writing a novel, and I'm hoping to turn this novel into a television series. It's called Linoleum Blown Apart. I talked about it on the last episode. You got to stay with me. I'm going to use all my songs in it. It's about a kid in a 1980s punk rock band who finds out that he has the same birthday as Napoleon, and he develops a Napoleonic complex. And right when Napoleon is going to become emperor, now don't forget, he's just a military, I thought of it last night. I can't remember he's just the military dictator or the marshal or something like that. Right. But he is not emperor. He crowns himself emperor. So again, we're not talking about Napoleon. We're talking about Linoleum Blown Apart. There's a punk rock kid who's basically me. And in his life that mirrors Napoleon, he's about to crown himself emperor. And he came up with a girl named Roxy. And it was one of these unrequited love relationships. She became a businesswoman. She used her sexuality at first. And all these guys started fighting each other because they all thought they were her boyfriend. It's kind of a funny scene. There's a couple scenes like that. And then she realizes, like, I'm using my power the wrong way. And then she shifts that power. Okay, this is very normal. It's okay if this has happened to you. I know it's happened to me. Some of it was by design, not mine. But so when Lionel is getting ready to make a move after becoming the biggest band in the world, his band's called Linoleum Blown Apart. He's dressing like Napoleon. They all are. like a band called the Upper Crust, who used to be on Conan O'Brien. He plays this song for Roxy. It's called Come Clean. And there's your double entendre. He's making fun of the fact that she has this slutty reputation. And it's called Come Clean, which means tell the truth. And this is my song. I wrote it in the 1980s. Actually, 1990s. Right? This is what women do. They make fun of you. They belittle you or your sexual partner after you make love a lot of times. It's telling her how good she looks. You were never my girlfriend. Don't make me come clean, cause you didn't want to know. And I know it's your fault, All right, so we get into another verse. Okay, and there's a lead solo. I try to have a basic hook, but this is just another song in my arsenal. And some of the songs have really great hooks to them. This is just a regular song, but it is prescient. Now, I write scenes around certain songs, but I don't write scenes around all my songs. I have 30 songs, guys, that go with this property. This is unprecedented. This is the cell of Linoleum Blown Apart. Okay, these have to go into the novelization first, and then I actually have something to show. Right now, I live out on the streets, and I was attacked yesterday. A guy tried to steal my bag, and he kept punching me in the head. It's just the way it is. You can see me. I got up, and I'm like, okay, I've got to do my show today. Right. So it's just how it is. I tied my bag around my arm, and he's pulling it, as hard as he can, trying to get my bag away from me. People see me with my bag every day. They assume that I have money. I do not. I live off the EBT menu. So there's that. So anyway, that's a scene from Linoleum Blown Apart. What we're here doing is we're taking the mick out of the alt-right, R-I-G-H-T, okay? And when you're on social media, you begin to get these confirmation biases right here, okay? So, right, you begin to get those confirmation biases. It's not letting me go to the page I want. Oh, boy. So, okay. Yeah, this thing's all over the place, man. All right, sorry about that. I'm just being goofy. Okay, so, right, it's coming from this. This is a neurological weapon. And what these POSs do, I talked about the DHS in the last episode, and what their incentive is, they point this at you and they can set it to 11. Now, you'll start barking. I call it barking at the moon. You're going to start yelling. You might start cussing. It's pretty shameful. My wife and my drummer were involved in this. They don't even know each other, but they knew to run this op on me. Okay. That means they are, whatever. I don't want to get into it. Just please stay away from me. Don't ever come near me again. I hate your guts. Like, there's certain ex-girlfriends who I would protect probably to the death, not my ex-wife. Never. So, and that's what this is. This is a neurological weapon. They point it at you, they set it to 11, and it's a stun gun, and you're just losing it. And now they're recording you at the same time, and then they put the viral video up, hoping that it goes viral. And that's the monetary reward for these people. Okay, this is just a fact. The Central Park Karen, that video was 100% neurological stun gun, 100%. And so what they can do is they come in through here and they interrupt your sleep. That is the first thing they do. If you're not on regimen, I am on regimen. So when I was living with my loving parents and I was utilizing Sigmund Freud's study enhancer, I'm a weekend warrior. I used to be. I was actually using it as a study enhancer, and I was reading alchemical manuals. And what I discovered is this: all religions are welcome on my show. We live in America. This country does not belong to African Americans and white Americans, Caucasians. As a matter of fact, I see there's a Caucasian guy out there. I see him every day. He's darker than me. Okay, so being right wing is an ideology. We live in a two-party system, so that's all you have. That's the only choices you have. When I voted for Jill Stein and I was married, because I was a loving husband, I was hoping, I wanted to see the numbers for third and fourth party. I didn't know at the time we only had a two-party system. I wanted to see those numbers rise. I was mostly libertarian, I call myself. But I believe the Constitution is basically a psyop. And again, we're going to be talking about this kind of stuff. I'm the counter conspiracy in the counter conspiracy program, which is Coco Pro, dude bro, right? Anyone could be a dude bro. You don't have to be male or female. You could be both or other. My pronoun is we, and that's with two E's. Oh boy. Right. So I talk about a lot of things. Please listen at 101.5 while you drive. That would be ideal. I try to do a little theater of the mind. So I just played you a little bit, one of the songs that I wrote. Okay. And this show is for entertainment purposes only. So I talk about my real life. I talk about this novel that I'm writing. I'd like to be able to turn it into a television series. I talk about, prescient things in, the news, but what I'm not going to talk about are these media deep blue stories. Okay. I'm not going to talk about my take on Russell Brand unless he used a brand. I don't mean to be crude, but what's there? It looks to me like Me Too is weaponized. Okay. So Me Too is weaponized. I stuck myself in a lot of places over the years. Okay. I was really, I was like Ray Winstone there. Cigarette smoking, beer drinking, raising hell. Okay. And you make mistakes. And just like the last episode, are you going to be judged now for the rest of your life for a mistake that you might have made? Like I said, when I was living on the streets and people came to me to try to sexualize me, they worked for the government. It was African Americans and whites. And these people think that they own the United States. And the media uses that as the racial dialectic. Okay. But the fact is, all these people work together when it comes to the police department and whatever, the DHS, whatever. There was a lot of great things that this gentleman said. This was at the Brookings Institution. Okay. And right here. So here is, you can see this video here. Sorry. It's on my playlist, guys. It says proof algorithms, not vids, are harmful. Okay. And that's where I got this information from the Brookings Institution. And so you take a look at last week's episode and you'll see that I'm also talking about the Brookings Institution. Okay. And right. They were trying to get around FISA. So you have to look for the warrantless wiretaps and FISA, the 702, and how they were able to get past that is something called CISA. Okay. And they use a company called CISA. And right. So, right. And he also said, keep in mind, the FBI is engaged in that, meaning, quote unquote, tracking social media. Okay. So I talked about this on my show as well, and again, I talked about CISA, and CISA is an Indonesian word that means petty theft. So, right. So you can see the government working with private company CISA to collect people's information. And we can see here that it is algorithms. It's called Gonzalez versus Google and the fate of Section 230. That is the episode where they mentioned that. So, and that's where I began researching the Google, and I knew that this is weaponized. Well, I had already known about it for 20 years, but you got to kind of slowly piece this stuff together. That's why we make a lot of speculation. We do a lot of speculation on this show. Okay. We do a lot of speculation, and that's how we were able to determine that not only was the John Hinckley Jr., Mark David Chapman fiasco a complete operation within 4 months of each other, but it ushered in a new decade. It happened right at 1980, 1981. You brought in, that's when Ronald Reagan came in with a vice president who was in CIA. No offense. Hey, you know, I'm not here to out anybody. I'm not here to, but you could see that this was an operation 100%, right? And when I talk about John Lennon, he was running with a rough crowd. This is what I'm trying to tell you. John Lennon sang uh, 10 for 2. All right. I'm trying to think of what the guy's name is. Right. This guy was from Michigan. Let me see it. Let me see if it comes. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I got a lot going on. I do my show extemporaneously. Thanks for watching. 10 for 2 song. Okay. I like it. Doesn't come up at all. It's just too old. John, boy, this is embarrassing. Whatever. So John Lennon shows up after 1969. They put out a song called "The Ballad of John and Yoko," and they're talking about sewing acorns in a pouch. Okay, this would be like Paul McCartney getting off the plane in Japan and just carrying the marijuana with me. He's like, "Oh, I just had it in my bag." So this sets a precedent for what's normalized to those guys. Okay. And so when you're sewing acorns in a pouch, if you're sewing opium in that pouch, you could actually trade that opium in for better drugs. That way, he's not bringing a sack of marijuana. Everyone's looking for marijuana. Okay. What nobody's looking for pretty much is opium. They don't really know what it is. I mean, we know what heroin is in the powder form. But I know a guy when I was working at Webster Hall in New York City in the 1990s. Oh, I got a story for you too. He just put a bunch of hashish inside of a peanut butter jar and he walked right through. He left Amsterdam. Okay. So I was in New York in the 1990s. You hear the song that I wrote, it's called Come Clean. I have a scene written around it in my new property called Linoleum Blown Apart. But I went to New York in the 1990s and I was repped by Don Buchwald Agency. They called me a non-traditional actor. They didn't know what to do with me. And Vin Diesel didn't exist. Guys who looked like me had to speak Spanish. Okay. People like Luis J. Gomez didn't exist. He's great. He's a stand-up comedian. Okay. Right. Jason Momoa didn't exist. It was just me. And I found myself going to the Don Buchwald Agency, and I was in the elevator with Dee Schneider. Okay. And they're sending Dee Schneider out on go-sees. They're called go-sees. Okay. Gotta take it easy, guys. Almost got mugged yesterday. But they're sending us both out on go-sees. Dee Schneider from Twisted Sister. Okay. In that moment in time, in 1990, Hamana, when I was in the elevator with him, probably 1995, I actually had done more work than Dee Schneider from Twisted Sister. Now, check out Twisted Sister's documentary. I highly recommend it. I'm not crazy about the band because I listen to punk rock. I'm an old punk rocker. But take a look at his documentary. It's great. It's almost 3 hours long. It's really terrific. I highly recommend it. But I'm in the elevator with Dee Schneider. Everybody knows what Dee Schneider looks like. As a matter of fact, I had seen his band. They gave us free tickets. There was nobody there. Towards the end, I'm talking about from the 80s into the 90s. In 1992, I went to New York. So by 1994, 95, I'm in an elevator with Dee Schneider at the Don Buchwald Agency. And we're both going up to get our go-see to find out what's going on. Like, what audition am I going on? Okay. At that moment in time, I had written an album. I had done 8 plays. I had my picture in the paper from doing a play where Chaz Palminteri did A Bronx Tale. I did 3 commercials. One of them was being played nonstop. It was a buyout. I got $500. I did 2 voiceovers. One I got $800 for Time Life books, and one of them was for Scholastic books. I got $200. Okay. Plus, I did at least a dozen student films. I always say a dozen. It's probably upwards of 20, 25, a couple dozen student films. These are still probably archived at NYU somewhere. I don't know. They probably tell kids, oh, dude, you can just take it home. I think they used to archive them a long time ago, but their film program is so huge. It's just like, oh, fuck it. Who cares? I did a lot of work, guys, a lot of work. And it's not my problem, right? That's the person's whose work it is problem. I'm just a cog in a wheel, and people don't understand that. Okay, so at this point in time, I'm in the elevator with D. Snyder in 19 Homina Homina at the Don Buchwald Agency, and I actually did more work than him. I had worked more than him. And that was between 1990 and 1995, 96. And then whatever. And then I just started working as a production assistant. I was like, man, I got to make money. I cannot live. I was about 30 years old, and I'm like, I cannot just be eating slices of pizza for $1.25. And I did for years. So I would go up to the Don Buchwald Agency, try to get my go-see. I'm being called that to my face, a non-traditional actor. And I was picked to work for Ralph Lauren based on how I looked, right? United Colors of Benetton, based on how I dressed. I dressed just like his new line. It was a grunge line. It was called Double RL. Double RL. Take a look into it for yourself, guys. I was picked because of how I looked, just naturally, how I dressed. I looked, it's the 90s. And like I said, I had written an album. I did 8 plays. I did 3 commercials, 2 voiceovers. I had my picture in the paper. I worked more than Dee Schneider. And you know what I did? I would go to the bookstore, go on my go-see, go to the bookstore, read some Norman Mailer. I was reading stuff like that at the time. Eddie Bunker, Norman Mailer, guy stuff. Then I would go get a pack of Viceroys, go over to Sophie's for $2 McSorleys during happy hour. I put out some Richard Thompson, Feel So Good, I'm going to break somebody's heart tonight. And then I would walk out into the amber evening when I was done. So much for me. It's just the way it was. They didn't know what to do with me. And I tell you something, if some kid came to me and told me he had accomplished all that, I wouldn't be like Don Buchwald Agency and dropping the ball. They completely dropped the ball. But guys, it's the 90s. All I have is a pager. And I went out for American Zoetropes. Jack Kerouac on the road. I auditioned. Well, I got to stand in line, turn in my headshot for American Zoetrope, and shake Francis Ford Coppola's hand. I did all that before, while I'm in, before I was in an elevator with Dee Schneider. And he's getting, he's going on tons of go-sees. I mean, I went on a lot of go-sees, but I created them myself. I wasn't waiting for Ricky Olshan on the Don Buchwald Agency. Okay? So I got to turn my headshot into Francis Ford Coppola. Right? There's another scene in Nil by Mouth. Let me see if I can find it. Nil by Mouth, Apocalypse Now. Let's see if it comes up. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, it's only a minute or so. So this is how I came up. Like I said, there was guys in my neighborhood doing cocaine, and they were watching Apocalypse Now. I think it was on HBO at the time. And then here I am. The numbers 10 or so years later, 15 years later, meeting Francis Ford Coppola, shaking my hand. It was just a great, just really nice to be able to do that. It was at a church on the Upper West Side.
Man, I know something that you don't know. That's right, Jack. Man is clear in his mind.
I think they're going to pull back from the screen. It says Nil by Mouth.
He's dying, I think.
See, it's not Nil by Mouth. Here's, so they do a scene. Sorry about that. So they do a scene in Nil by Mouth where the guy's aping Apocalypse Now. Right? So Oopsie. Going back to my playlists right here. So we're talking a little bit about getting indoctrinated, and we're talking about Operation Coco Pro Dude Bro, the counter conspiracy program. Now, I'm a guy, I got male energy, right? I've had LGBT friends my whole life. Like I said, I was targeted out on the street. It was very scary times for me. And what they did was they held on to this footage for 20 years. And then when that operation didn't go through, my drummer put behavioral malware on my $2,000 computer, ruined it. I discovered it because everybody was too busy calling me Zoolander. They're too busy calling me Zoolander. And I discovered this malware. They thought I was just that stupid. They utilized my drummer in 2 operations. One down in Florida, where somewhere my old girlfriend's neighborhood, some girls calling me, asking me about my sexuality. Interesting. Right. So they knew that I had participated in this, but they called me Zoolander for so many years. They thought that I didn't know that it was police officers setting me up. I knew it was. Well, I write about it in my book, Two-Legged Animal. It's called A Kind of Okay Looking Babe, when they used a honey trap. And again, guys, I don't have anything. I have nothing. I eat off the EBT menu. I have my songs. I have my life. Barely. I don't think any of you actually don't know if you're going to get murdered or not. I don't know if I'm going to get murdered. Pretty much every night. That's how I live. So I'm not asking you for any money. I'm asking you to participate in the show, grow the show. It's very prescient, right? So when this behavioral malware didn't go off because they had been using behavioral malware on me, including my ex-wife, this changes your behavior. So like I was saying, in my household that was very similar to nil by mouth, there wasn't domestic violence charges. There wasn't DUIs pretty much. There was, but my father got a DUI. You know how tough it was to get a DUI in the 1970s? It was tough, man. You had to be swerving up and down the street right in front of a cop. I got a DUI. And I told you, I became my father. And I think my 3 sisters and my mother actually still believe that I have these traits like him. Therefore, they can only vilify me. They don't realize that I'm like them, because we all have the traits of both of our mothers and fathers. But they see me more as my father. They vilify me. And piece of shit police officers, they pick up on this. And I already told you that the DHS Stasi uses gossip. And that's what started this whole Zoolander thing. And it ended with them, those involved. I believe it has to do with the St. Clair Shores Police Department and FBI guys from New York and Michigan were possible DHS guys. Okay. And the guy had moved out next door to my parents' house. And I was still wounded. I hadn't put it together yet that my wife was using this. I knew she was. I just didn't want to say anything. I know how to keep my mouth closed. Okay. I dated a girl who's an ecstasy dealer for the Gambino crew, for a Gambino soldier. I kept my mouth closed. She moved a lot of product. I never said nothing. Okay. I know a major cocaine dealer in Detroit. I've known him for years. I never said nothing. I don't pay for my bands and coke. Okay. I came up the hard way, pal, not the easy way. So right, I know how to keep my mouth closed. Well, now I got my own show. I'm going to tell you guys everything. I'm going to tell you guys everything. You got to share my show. You got to like it, please. Yeah. Listen at 1.5 while you drive. Please. This is about my creative process. I've never been nothing but a creative person. And don't forget, I live like a true outlaw. Okay, this is before I knew that it's the actual police department that protect drug dealers. That's what they did. Okay, so I got to be a little bit more personable. I got to talk a little bit more friendly-ish. Okay, so I just want to say, as far as the Coco Pro, that's me, Coco Pro. I'm alt-white. We didn't create these conspiracies. Conspiracies exist. I told you, Thomas Pynchon actually spoke about numerous conspiracies, and he's a media darling. Oh, God. He's a literary darling, I meant to say. Right? And they exist. Excuse me. They exist independent of me, myself, and Ison. Ooh, the dark triad. We'll talk about that in a little while, hopefully. Right? It's an academic paper about the dark triad. So these conspiracies exist independent of us. I didn't create the notion that the Titanic had a sister ship called the Olympic, and that the hull was breached. J.P. Morgan tried to, if it's the right person, tried to cash in on the insurance. The insurance company reneged on it. And so he switched ships, and it was more likely to go down with billionaires on the ship, or multimillionaires, whatever they were at the time. Okay, so I didn't create that conspiracy. It exists. Okay, the falsification of the moon landing operation existed. It was basically, there was a documentary, I believe it was on Fox television, and it was out of Australia. I think it was the first mainstream one about the falsification of moon landing verification. Okay. And they say, this looks pretty shady. And they pointed out some anomalies. Okay. I'm not going to get into those. You want to look into them, look into them. They're probably still right here on YouTube. I'm YouTube exclusive. I'm also 23andMe exclusive. And my 23andMe looks like Heinz 57. A lot of stuff going on in there. I'm 3.14% Neanderthal. That's right. Ooh, I'm hungry for some pie. Okay. So they exist. There's nothing we can do about that. I didn't create it. And what's more, excuse me, you have something like the technology that comes out that people realize the focal length of their camera exceeds 8 miles per squared in the parabolic arc that's supposed to take place with a 25,000 mile circumference of the Earth. Are you guys, do I got to slow down? Right? This bothers me. Yeah, I look spiffy. Oh, I picked the right side for a change. Right? Okay, so the new cameras that were coming out, digital cameras, their focal length surpassed 8 inches per mile squared, which is the formula for the blue marble, which is 25,000 miles. Okay, I didn't come up with that. And on a clear day, you could see forever. There's no refraction. Okay, so you have to have the air density, the amount of water that's in the air, or smoke, smog. Right? We used to have a guy named Sonny Elliott in Detroit. So I'm from Detroit. We had a lot of great things in Detroit, but like I said, I left. I had to go out into the world. I had to meet other Lumbee natives. I had to get work as an actor, and I did. Very successful, very successful. Then I went out to Las Vegas. I was burnt out, guys. You have to understand that. I was so burnt out. I took every job and I drank every single night. Then I'm in Las Vegas. I look just like my father. I'm driving around in pickup trucks, smoking cigarettes, drinking beer. That's all my dad did. Okay, I think he died around 1995. I'm not sure. I don't know too much about the man, unfortunately. Okay, so anyways, I always get sidetracked. It's a little theater of the mind. Please listen at 1.5 while you drive. It's the Grievous Gordy Show. Ugh. That's called the Alt-White Show with your host. Oh, Stickaround Brown. That's me. Oh, boy. That's what they used to say. Okay, so for good or for bad, for better or for worse, these things exist. Okay, and it seems to me that you get indoctrinizations That's plural. With this is a neurological weapon. So you are getting neurologically tied into these news stories. And these news stories come from media deep blue, right? That's what I call it. I call it media deep blue. And that comes from IBM. Okay. And so when you look at the Mr. Beale speech by Ned Beatty in the wonderful film Network, I remember this film came out. I remember my mother came home from going to see this film and she imitated it. I remember it succinctly. I get my storytelling from my mother's side of the family. She's Lumbee native. My father is from Lexington, Kentucky area. He was from Flatwoods, and Billy Ray Cyrus was from Flatwoods. Billy Ray Cyrus, as a child, used to watch my uncles sit on the porch and play music and jam, and that got him interested in playing music. And the rest is history. I'm sorry. Sorry about Miley Cyrus. I don't listen to that music, so I can joke about it a little bit. Like I said, I work with A-listers. I worked on a lot of music videos. Okay. And again, what people don't understand is sometimes these music videos come out and sometimes they don't. I only saw 2 music videos I ever worked on. One was Jane's Addiction live. I think it was at the Roseland Ballroom or somewhere. I set up the intervalometer camera. I had to watch it. And you'll see it if you ever see a Jane's Addiction live with an intervalometer camera, right? Which is stop motion. At the time, I had a Super 8 camera, which was film. I don't know if you can get film for it anymore, but it's stop motion. I was using it. I was shooting in stop motion. I just could never afford to shoot my own film. I couldn't afford it. I met my wife. She was shooting student films. Unfortunately, she turned into an obsequious Philistine. Like her brother, he works for the city. He's a city worker. And what the problem is this: these people, I don't mean to put them down, but they don't have any talent. I say talent. Okay, they don't have any raison d'être. They don't have any reason to exist. So their reason for existing, they become these busybodies. They become these kind of NPCs. But it's really important that we don't dehumanize anybody. But it is funny. The meme wars continue. These media deep blue headlines are memes. They are memes. That's what they are. And we all know that. And that is part of accelerationism on the right. Headlines are memes, and your politicians give hand jobs. And by the way, nice little segue. Okay, don't forget, President Clinton was having sex. He was having sexual relations with that woman, Monica Lewinsky. He was having sex with her. But what were we told? We were told that he was sticking a cigar inside this woman. Okay, he wasn't sticking his penis. When you have sex, we all know how to have sex. This is an 18 and older show. But where's this coming from? This is really polluted. And now here we have 20 years later, a woman's giving a hand job and she's a politician. So this is the end of innocence. That's what it is, unfortunately, and the crowning of the childlike behavior. That's coming. And the fact that once a video comes out, like they did in my case, I have never even seen this video, but I can only guess, and I know when it was shot. And the reason that they released the video was because I found that behavioral malware, and they were paused and ready to go. They were going to come in, and then in my parents' neighborhood, there would have been 2 houses because the house next door is somewhat conjoined by you know what I mean? That's a huge amount of property, and you could develop that property. I believe 2 houses were built in the immediate area, relatively recently. So with my parents gone, right, me blamed for it, Disconnected Records can put out the record like they did with putting a dead guy on the record. Then they used my likeness for the article. And the guy in my band, his wife is thick as thieves with the guy who wrote it. Wow. Excuse me? I think some people got something to answer for. And I think I'm going to be background checking a lot of people right here. Maybe I'll get back on Facebook. Who knows? Maybe I will. We'll see. We'll see how the show goes. I'd like to you guys leave a comment if you can. But we're talking about these alt-right conspiracies. Okay. And you could see that the Proud Boys, many of them are feds, right? And you could see on Gavin McGinnis, he talks to a lot of police officers. Like he's supposed to be a grown-up punk rocker. And don't forget, he used to hang out with Sarah Silverman. He said that they were thick as thieves. They're buddies. So we used to say, fuck authority. And come to find out, we were right. You're supposed to say fuck authority. Why? Because you're supposed to question authority, guys. You're not supposed to just take their word for it. And now we're living in DHS, Stasi, based on rumor and innuendo. Hey, man, this guy right here, Stickaround Brown, he thinks he wants to stick around in our neighborhood over here. Well, let's have this guy attack him in the park and see what happens. That's what happened last night. Guy tried stealing my backpack. I don't have any money, but, he knows that I carry it all the time. Whatever. Live and let live. I don't hold a grudge. Like I said, I consider what my wife did and what my drummer was involved in and what a lot of my ex-friends involved in, like people from Boston Edison. I'm sorry, that's in Detroit. I'm sorry, I thought we were friends. That won't happen again. I consider attempted murder on my life at this point in my life. That's how hardcore I'm going on this. Because I know I have talent and I'm not worried about it. I got 1,000,001 stories for you. I just told you the Dee Schneider story. I actually worked more than that guy. I had a better resume. And Don Buchwald Agency's like, da, 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 da. Hey, can you stick a feather in your hair? I'm not that kind of a native. I'm a maroon. The kind from Bugs Bunny. Don't forget, the reason I'm here is because of Bugs Bunny. He would call you a maroon, an ignoramus. Right? Oops. I gotta make sure the door's closed. Right? Why are you ignorant? Why are you a maroon? He's putting in the pejorative. Well, right? That's from World War II. They knew about marooning then, but look at what they're teaching in the schools. They're taking a lot of things out. You don't stop learning after school, right? You don't stop learning after school. For me and my generation, we had the after school special. That's what we had. It was a television show that had a moral equivalency to it. It was called an after school special, right? And it would give us a little moral conundrum that the person would have to go through. And I really like those stories. Okay, so that's why I'm here in West Hollywood. I'm here to work in the studio system. I have no problem with it. I feel perfectly good about myself as far as any wrongdoing that I've ever done. I made it right with the person who was involved, and I don't really give a shit about the state. And you could say, look at me now. I still don't care about the state. My idea for a television program about a kid who has the same birthday as Napoleon and he's a punk rocker is genius. I'm here in there's a big LGBT bars right up here on Santa Monica. A lot of cool people, a lot of great people. They got naked dancers. There's actually both male and female naked dancers out there, right? This is fun. And that's what you want. You want to be able to explore this hedonism, right? And I'm finding that a lot of these alt-right people are just holier than thou, never got a traffic ticket. They come on here and they virtue signal nonstop. Well, like I said, there's nothing wrong with getting our relationships through here, but I like relationships out here. I'm trying to build relationships out here as well, right? And we're not all looking for love in all the wrong faces. Ooh. Right? But we are. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I just don't like that holier than thou, okay, ridiculousness. So now we're reduced to Antifa, ACAB. I call it ACAB. It says all cops are bastards. These guys have these tattoos on their arms. These people are apparatchiks. And again, they could be useful idiots. That's what they look for. You see these Nazi demonstrations, a bunch of them are police officers, okay, just right in your local area. That's why they cover their face. Very coward-like. I mean, you can't call it anything else. I hate Illinois Nazis. They cover their face because they're police officers. They're local in the local municipality, stirring up the shit, causing divide and conquer. Right? But 80% of them are useful idiots. They'll just believe anything. Well, you can't fault somebody for believing something. I'm sorry, you can't fault somebody for their beliefs. You just can't. Why? Because we're entitled to have them. They might not coincide with yours, obviously, but that's the beauty of religions as well. Okay? John Sinclair, that's who the guy was. 10 for 2. I'll get back to that because I do like talking about that. I really enjoy it. Right? They're entitled to have their beliefs. You listen to these old grandpas, they watch too much Fox News. Oh boy, you got to hear them. The immigrants are coming in. Where are you from, Grandpa? Oh, your grandfather moved over from, yeah. We're all immigrants at one time. If somebody from South America wants to come over here, all they got to do is roll up to the border and say, hey, we're going to Knott's Berry Farm. Okay. Come on in. You can't stop somebody from going to Knott's Berry Farm. You got a car full of people. Yeah, we're going to Knott's Berry Farm. Sorry about the weed smell. It's decriminalized. Right. Don't forget, I used to catch beatings from my mother up through high school for smoking weed, and I was using it for PTSD. Okay, there is no blame. I don't hate my mother. I don't hate my sisters. Sorry, I had to do that. They're annoying, but whatever. I don't put any emotional interest in them at all, nor they me. Okay. My interest was in my wife. And what I found out after only 7 years, what I found out was that, number one, she doesn't have any talent. She had no business going to film school, right? I had all the business in the world being in New York City, and I displayed this phenomenally. Please put somebody in the comment section who has the same resume as me. Did you need me to repeat it? All right, so let's go back to the Coco Pro. Dude, bro, a little bit. I was talking about John Sinclair, and I was talking about, because I got into punk rock in 1980, and so did who? Speaking of Illinois Nazis, John Belushi. Now, 10 for 2, that's a guy who went to prison. He was going to do 10 years in prison for 2 joints. His name was John Sinclair. He's from Michigan. He hung out with the MC5. John Lennon showed up to show his support, right? For they call him a Maximum Bob or / a Maximum John. Okay, that doesn't mean John Sinclair. It means the judge. The judge is a Maximum John. They used to call him Maximum John, but Elmore Leonard wrote a book called Maximum Bob. It's about the same thing. Maximum Judge. Fucking prick. Piece of shit. Now I'm wondering if the term sober as a judge isn't pure sarcasm, right? Judge Roy Bean. I'd love to see that film again. Okay. So John Lennon, there's Mark David Chapman and John Hinckley Jr. These guys look identical. They're carrying Catcher in the Rye. When you go to the page for Holden Caulfield, they are it says if on his wiki page, I'm wicca alma mater. That's right. How I come up with everything is through Wikipedia. That's how I do it. You're welcome. I look everything up on Wikipedia, mostly physics and just some quick information. I'm not going to dig deep into the celeb stuff because most of that stuff is a cherry picking fallacy. So here you have John Lennon. He's sewing acorns in a pouch, and we all know you can smuggle drugs in. Smuggling opium is the caveat. Why? Because it even says if you look up John Lennon and heroin, he was on heroin. So he could have just been smoking this opium. Okay, and this goes back, obviously thousands of years, right? And these wars in Afghanistan just recently that just finished, we're all about synthetic opium. And guess what happened? So I hate to say this, but it's a fact. So after this operation, Catcher in the Rye operation with the president, and what happens? Iran-Contra. So what happens with Iran-Contra? Well, they bring in smokable cocaine. Now, smokable cocaine is like you're shooting cocaine because it hits your bloodstream, and that's what gives you that bell ringer, just to let you know. It's called a bell ringer. So when you smoke rocks, it gives you a bell ringer, and that cocaine is in your system, boom, instantaneously. Instead of when you do a line, it takes a while and it comes in kind of slow and mellow. It's just a fact. Okay. I'm obsessed. Do I look spiffy enough? So, cut to George Bush Jr. coming in here, going into Afghanistan. Now they have Fenty. It's called fentanyl synthetic heroin. It's when you take the poppy, you synthesize it, throw some other, sprinkle some other. Well, can you sprinkle crack on there? It's called a 151. Or I don't want to get a speedball or whatever. But, well, guess what they introduced? Smokable. This is where all the deaths are coming from. Smokable Fenty. Do you see this? Poppy Bush brings in Iran-Contra crack cocaine. His son brings in smokable fentanyl. And I'm sorry, I was talking about President Clinton, and I was talking about Monica Lewinsky, and he was having sex with her. There is no doubt. And I got a story about that. A true story. All my stories are true and real, guys. I'm sorry. I don't smell like Frank's hot sauce and Clorox bleach rags. Standing around a fucking bar telling the same stories over and over and over again. Right? Nobody asked me, so I never said nothing because I know how to keep my mouth shut. All right? So I don't know, man. I forgot. I wish I could rewind it. I don't know where I was at. I was on a roll. Oh, boy. That's how I butter my roll. Right? So you have John Lennon, and you have, when you go to the page for Holden Caulfield, just the character, the very first story he was ever in, beep, it says, "I'm crazy." And I think those are the first lines of the book. I should get it and bring it in next time. Okay. This is the counter conspiracy program. We're taking the mick out of the alt-right. Okay. I follow a lot of that stuff. I listen to Timcast. Okay. They look like South Park characters, and they discuss current events. And don't forget, Kevin Sorbo was on there, and he said that he got kicked out of Hollywood for being too conservative. Well, I'm here to tell you, you had your day in the sun. Okay. If once you're known as He-Man, not many other actors can transition into other characters. Not many can at all. Like, he played He-Man on TV. You're He-Man. Now you're He-Man. You want to do a couple other little things on the side? Well, you gotta hustle. And for me, my hustle is this show. Okay. Like I said, I'm a trained actor. I did way more than anybody. Don't fucking call me Zoolander. Dude, I mean, that's, I took a hell of a beating last night. So what are you going to do? Like I said, this has been happening nonstop since my divorce. Okay. I just been getting attacked by these random people, and it's not random. It makes you think that it's not random, right? So take a look at David Strouder. He was in a band called Majesty Crush, and he actually was murdered by the LAPD, allegedly. That's what it says online. They said he was acting very sporadic in 2017. Okay, right here it says, I have on my playlist, it says sue. What did they say? Oh, this girl had this new word for self harm. Ending life or something like that. So this is this newspeak future that we're going into. So if I can't say, I have a song about self harm. I should play that for you a little bit, but I like playing a little bit of music to break it up. But this is what Roseanne said right here on the Megyn Kelly show. Okay. That's why I put it up there. Okay. She said they wanted me to self-harm. So she must have been feeling the same thing, but now they're not doing it as heavy. Like I said, this last POS who used this neurological stun gun on me, they used it as soon as my car broke down over here. What they do is they point it at you, they put it to 11, and you can't take it anymore. And your behavior starts to be modified. They record it, they'll put it online and say, this guy's a danger. When in fact, you're not. It's fake. It's false, just like them. Okay. So this guy, David Strouder, was doing the same thing in 2017. Roseanne, the same thing happened to her. Okay. I'm not on anybody's side. Okay. But, for whatever it's worth, I understand this thing on a military level, and that's what it is. So here is my playlist for 2025-ish financial collapse. This is based on Michael Burry from The Big Short, putting $1.5 billion down that the stock market will crash. And this is what I believe. Now, I don't really care. I get my information from my discernment. I form a hypothesis based on this information that's coming to me from YouTube. I'm YouTube exclusive, okay? And that's why it's important, so you're not Cinderfella affected. Or you have to surf that Eggyverse if you are. You have to look past it. If you start feeling weird, you start feeling strange, you got to surf it out, okay? You need to seek help, seek help. There's meds in a bed waiting for you. There's always meds in a bed waiting for you if you need it. Please seek that help. I know I did, but I was figuring this out. Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop. And when I would go to jail, when a bunch of cowards in the 1980s Detroit punk rock scene, make no mistake about it, people who I thought were my friends were making fun of me, calling me Zoolander. Well, I was taking advantage of it by writing, and I got in my million words. So that's what I was doing. So you could see, I am my mother's son. Unfortunately, my father, I love my stepdad. He's Sicilian. You guys want to know about my stepdad? My stepdad is so cool. He's a Sicilian guy. He played on an all African-American baseball team. The Tigers would let people come to Tiger Stadium and try out. You guys know that? A lot of old baseball teams used to do this. This is true. You guys say, all my stories are true, man. They would let anyone get up there and try out for the Tigers. And my dad did. My stepdad, Anthony. I love him more than I love my mom and my sisters. I love him in a different way. I have respect for him that I'll never have with them. Okay. It's over. Like, it's over. You don't vilify me. I don't appreciate it. I'm not my father. Okay. So, yeah, I have stuff about Clockwork Orange on here. Check out this playlist. It's really great. Voices from DARPA. This is where I was putting together the Google. Okay, that's a play on Google. No offense, fellas. Take it easy. It's just true. It just means that this is weaponized. It's 10 to the 100th power is the Google. That's cycles per second. And that's not just HERTZ. It's HURTS. And that's what they use. This is a neurological weapon. I talk about it every single show. Put it on 1.5 while you drive. I got the Eggman by Beastie Boys. That's my favorite record, Paul's Boutique. And here's a great one about the age of Aquarius. We talk about that. Everyone's carrying water. You're a water bearer carrying fresh water in the age of Aquarius. But there's like a 1% change shift in the constellation. And what's muy importante, I do speak Spanglish, is that there was something called the celestial sphere. Okay, I might be able to pull this up for you guys. You guys got to look this stuff up yourself. Ooh, wiki. Ooh, celestial sphere. Celestial sphere. Here. Okay. Take a look at this. Wicca, 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 alma mater. That's right. Look at that. Where are we? We were talking a little bit about the moon landings. We were talking a little bit about the fact that they had dune buggies. They were shooting out rooster tails behind them. We didn't create the conspiracy, guys. It was handed to us, and it came to us through Media Deep Blue. It came through us through these algorithms right here on YouTube. And here is the celestial sphere. Okay. You can see where we're at. We're spinning on the inside. But what's this line here? You see this line there in the middle? The equator? You see that? That's what they were talking about. You could also be on that and have the celestial sphere going around. The celestial sphere could go around anything. It could go around a tetrahedron, right? So what we concluded in the counter conspiracy program, Coco Pro Dude Bro, is that we're living on a soccer ball, okay? And there's little flat planes on this soccer ball, right? You got the blue marble, and there's little flat planes on the soccer ball, right? Is there not, right? Little divots. So you have these flat areas. Well, there you go. Right? Could two tragedies at the Titanic containing billionaires be a coincidence? Yes, Coco Pro. I'm a coincidence pro. That's me. Yes. Or it could be this recurrence. Remember, I was talking about Chester Bennington. And he's saying, man, these same things keep happening to me over and over again. And if you take a look at your own life, you'll see that they do. And hopefully, good things will be recurrent. But we're all going to suffer these humiliations, right? We're all going to suffer these schmangies. Oh, man, I don't have my paper. Hold on. They give me a paper. Here we go. I got to have my official paper. This is my room. Yeah, that's right. You see that whiteboard? Oh, you fucked around. Oh, you're going to find out right there. Right. So you have this. This is as old as time. Okay. It's known as the celestial sphere. And it's a sphere because when you look up at the sky, we see this arch. Right? We see this arch over the sky. We could see it from horizon to horizon. It looks like it's going like this. And that's why they created this idea. Well, we must be something within, and there's a sphere around us. Okay? And so it's very interesting. Take a look at the Lighthouse film. Okay, so the Lighthouse film was great. I love this film. I love the director. He would be great to be brought in on the project. Linoleum Blown Apart, that's right. Walter makes 7 films. Okay. And we want different directors to direct each one of his films. In 1945, I don't know when the war's over. I'm going to check. Well, it comes out in 44. He does a film called Of Reasonable Service. It's about an ambulance driver who is in a war-torn country. He comes home and he literally travails the globe to go all the way back to the war-torn country to rescue the woman that he loves. Now, that's a love story. And that came out of one of the characters, a play that she wrote called Vivisection on the Danube. It didn't have nothing to do with that. Yeah, they had to change the title and everything. I used Romans 12 from the Holy King James. All religions are welcome here. I am a heretic. I'm more of a Gnostic. That's okay. I can be that. I can be whatever I want. This is America. African Americans don't own it, nor do white people. Nobody owns it. Okay. Walter does this film Of Reasonable Service, and it's playing in the theaters when the war ends. And so it's like From Here to Eternity. It's like everything. It's like Sullivan's Travels. It's like all of that, right? All wrapped up into one. I have the story. I just told you. But the best part about it, Of Reasonable Service, comes out in 1945. It's a fictitious film that I created. I'll be writing up the treatment for it and putting it on Kindle. All my writing's on Kindle. Okay. I don't know. The best part, I don't know.
So just so you know, the rooms aren't soundproof. So
Sorry.
if you're gonna have a conversation, you'll probably have to go downstairs.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, I didn't know the game like that. Oh. All right. Yeah, I was getting a little. That's why I love my show. I'll be doing my show from outside probably once again. Hopefully, hopefully I won't get jumped. Oh boy, like I was really worried about it. So he makes this film, and the best part about this film is the fight between Harriman and Godwin. Godwin's a good guy. Harriman is the bad guy. All the names are tentative. This could take place in any fascistic country: Italy, Spain, Germany. Okay, anywhere. And so, actually, she's wrong. You can come in here. You can talk and have conversations. That's what these rooms are for, among other things. Take it easy. Because I see people using them for phone rooms. So I can have a conversation here. But we will keep it down because we're very respectful. I've always been very respectful to people. You know, I swear. Okay. So the best part of Reasonable Service, this fictitious film, is they get into a fight. And this fight goes on and on and on. It's the two of them. And it goes from, one of them will have a weapon. One takes the weapon away from him. They fight for the gun. They lose the gun. Then they can grab a sword off the wall. They get into a sword fight. Then that fails. And then and it just keeps going. And this fight scene is like 10 minutes long. And that's when the guys in the theater, I always talk about my project. It's called Linoleum Blown Apart. I know every bit of minutia in this project. When the guys in the theater are watching this film by a filmmaker named Walter, and they're in the film, they're in the theater and they're actually having sex with women because they just came back from the war. So, and we can have some really great, cute LGBT scenes in there too. Like, I'm sorry, but two sailors, that's just very cliche, but it is true. There is a lot of LGBT people, in the service, and it's normal now, but to see it, right, taking place in the 1940s will be very cute, right? They're actually making love in the theater too. But when the fight goes on, the fight part of the film, they stop. And they're all just like watching this fight. And that's what they love about this film is the fight between the two men. And they both love Eva. Now, you can't deny Harriman He's the bad guy, but he loves Eva too, even though he burnt down her artist studio. He got there through evil means. Okay, so then his next film is kind of like A Killer's Kiss. It's kind of like Scorsese's Raging Bull. He does a film called Pork Chops in the Hoosgow. Pork Chops in the Hoosgow is about a young, inexperienced boxer who loses his dad in a fire, and then he gets taken advantage of by a gangster and his mall. So don't forget that Pudgy's father dies in a suspicious fire. He gets the insurance money, and Ralphie basically steals the insurance money with the help of one of his girlfriends. Ralphie is an old mobster guy, and his girlfriend is obviously younger, so she goes in and gives Pudgy sex. Okay, this is based on my own life with Yolanda when I moved to New York City. She was very sexually active. Okay, and we were teetering on the porn industry. And, the porn industry is huge now, but, we're talking about the 90s. Okay, and so after that, he does a film called The Spangled Banner. And then he hooks up with a guy named Jeremy Cloud, who's like Alan Watts. Okay. He went out and he wrote a book about entheogens. And he's like Joseph Campbell meets Alan Watts. And he dresses like Clint Eastwood. Like he dresses like he's from Peru in a poncho. Right. And he's in a room full of guys who are in sharkskin suits. This takes place in the 1950s. So he does a film called The Spangled Banner. It's about a president who goes on a murder spree. Okay, so this is like Hitchcock meets Stanley Kubrick. Okay, the president, he just got voted out of office. He goes on a murdering spree. And so it's like The Lost Weekend as well. I think it's called, is it Lost Weekend? The film with Randy Quaid. Okay, so after that, he does another film. It's called Not a Sticky Candy Dish. And it's about a boat or a Zeppelin that goes down with a bunch of billionaires on it. We're just talking about it. And the only person left to control the family fortune is a 17-year-old girl with budding sexuality. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And then he does another 3 or 4 films. His last one is Bonaparte, Bon Ami. We'll get to that. I want to talk about this for a little bit because during the alt-right, and I was getting all this information about candidates hurting people and hurting children. This was all we were getting, that they were eating children, killing children, and it had nothing to do with the pizzeria in Washington, D.C. That's something else. They added that. The mainstream media added that. And I wanted to talk, and I was talking a little bit about Bill Clinton. And they said that he was having sex with the young lady, and he was. And they said that he was sticking a cigar inside of her. Now, I think they got it confused whether it was a cigar case or a cigar. Okay, so this is Fatty Arbuckle bullshit. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Who was our president? President Clinton? Is he Fatty Arbuckle? You guys know the Fatty Arbuckle? Hollywood, Babylon. That's right. Fatty Arbuckle. He was a big Hollywood star. He allegedly used the champagne bottle on a young lady, and she died. Okay. Check out the book. It's called I, Fatty. I had mine autographed. It's the author of Permanent Midnight. And I can't think of his name right now. I've got too much going on. That's why I try to do a show like every other day. I want to do a show every day. I could do this show every single day. Please listen at 1.5 while you drive. So people make jokes about sticking a cigar into a young lady. Okay, yeah, look at me. I'm an old punk rocker. I understand things are bawdy. But in case you don't know, tobacco actually could cause second-degree burns. Raw tobacco on your skin, tobacco even from a cigarette, take out a cigarette if you can afford it, put the tobacco, all of it, in your hand, or even on the back, better on the back of your hand. Press it together and sit there. It'll burn. This is a fact. My mother used to roll tobacco by hand. My mother's hands are like catcher's mitts. That's how callous. She worked on a farm, and she got the hell out of there. And she came to Detroit. So I'm not here to put her down or criticize her or my sisters, but it's part of my life story. Okay. And I know sometimes I get defensive and I do apologize, but you guys need to know my life story. It's important. And it has nothing to do with narcissism. Every single person's life story is important. And, going into the future, hopefully some of these stories will be cherished and not cherry picked for the bad things the person did. Right? Like we were talking in the last episode. So if the president of the United States is entering a cigar up a woman's private area, that's actually causing second-degree burns. Okay? And this is a president who is accused of biting a woman's lip unnaturally. He almost bit her lip off. I'm just saying this is an accusation. So this is a form of torture. Okay? It's pretty heady stuff. So when you're getting into all this, you're calling Obama gay. Okay. He's talking about, we don't know how true this document is, whether or not he has unnatural feelings. No, I don't want to say, I'm sorry, I don't mean to say unnatural, but he has feelings for men as opposed to women. Right? We talk about this. We talk about sexual exploitation. Okay. And so we're talking about the lighthouse. Doesn't have anything to do with it. I was talking about, excuse me, the cosmology. We're taking the mick out of some of these conspiracy theories. And you had the celestial sphere. Right? And so this is actually based, cosmos actually means order. Okay, so you have cosmetics, that's actually from the cosmos. It means order, it means structure. So and that's what they talk about: ornaments, having brooches, pins, wearing jewelry, and cosmetics, having order and structure to your face, right? We're mammals, but we're not animals, guys. We might be mammals, but we are not animals. So we will groom. Why? Because when we look in the mirror, we only see our flaws. How can you take beautiful women like the Kardashians and sit here and watch them getting plastic surgery? Like, they're beautiful. There is no denying it. Right? Even, I don't want to get into it. That's another Coco Pro. Okay. So, yeah, Robert Eggers, great filmographer, just really terrific. It's an A24 production. Okay, this is based on a true story. Okay. Oh, they bring up Repulsion. That's interesting. That's Polanski. So, Lighthouse Keeper. I wish I knew the guy. That's what I was trying to get to. Right. Analysis. Let's see. They talk about psychoanalysis with Freud and Jung. Anyways, so there is an actual person. Here it is: mythology, the sea monster, the rhyme of the ancient mariner that goes into this. And so this is right. It was bad luck to kill the albatross, all that kind of stuff, right? And they talk about Prometheus, sexuality, whatever. Because I don't have the guy, but what was interesting was the guy who was based, one of these characters was based on. He actually drew a map, and it was based on the celestial spheres, and that's how he was able to navigate. And he actually, he went out there and he ended up going insane. Well, part of the reason why he went insane was because they attributed a new map to him. And he kept saying, I didn't use that map. I didn't use that map. I used the old map. I used the stars. Okay? So there's that for whatever it's worth. We like to jump around a little bit on the show. It keeps it fresh, keeps it interesting. And this was based on him. I can't look it up right now. I'm not going to waste all your time doing that, but that is a fact. The guy, that's why he quote unquote went mad, was because they were attributing something to him that wasn't true. And he was using the stars to navigate. And we know this. And right. So, oh boy, how you guys doing? Again, I'm not here. We're here to grow the show, but when I do my live show, not many people actually watch while I'm doing it live. That's fine. I usually do a 2-hour show. I talk about my life. I actually play music. I play the music that's going to be featured in Linoleum Blown Apart. And I was talking about the 7 films of Walter. And so we got up to Nana's Sticky Candy Dish. And it's about a 17-year-old girl's budding sexuality. Now, this is based on like Terry Gilliam working with, working with Scorsese, working with Kubrick and talking about Nabokov, right? Where they have Lolita. Okay. So this is about post-pubescent sexualization of children. Okay. So this is very important. What they were telling us on the alt-right was that it's prepubescent sexualization of children. You're talking about babies, killing babies, eating babies, and having your way with these babies. Okay. This is insane. They were telling us that it was very specific politicians doing this. Then they come out with the Jim Caviezel movie about a shipping container full of children. Right. And when the movie comes out, there's a Hurricane Hillary that hits. Okay. This is not cool. This is what's really driving people to get more, a little bit too neurologically infused in these news stories. It is hitting us emotionally because we can all remember a traumatic childhood experience. In my household, it was me getting hit by a car. But now I know I have 3 sisters. They all have their own traumatic experience. My mother lost her mother at the same age that I got hit by a car. So again, it doesn't matter if me relating to my dad, me relating to my mom, me relating to my stepdad. It doesn't matter because these are the people in your life, and this is important stuff. That's why I always love family. But my mother lost her mother. And she remembered, she would tell me this story over and over again. My mother is a storyteller. She's very beautiful. She looks like Rosario Dawson. It's kind of gross for me to say that, but I'm almost 60 years old. And I just say it because it's a fact. She ran after her mother who abandoned her. Okay. So her mother abandoned her when she was 5 and she ran after that car. She wanted her mother so bad and she fell into the dirt and the dust blew in her face. She cried. Picture my mother crying for her mother. She was stuck with her father, who was a physical man. Yeah. You didn't do something? Hey, man, that's just the way it is. That's the way it was. That's why I don't fault her for it. They were getting physical at my parochial school. We got the paddle. So my mom got physical with us. That's okay. I take it a little bit harder because I am a young man, right? So what did my mom do? She ended up marrying a guy who got physically abusive with her. And her dad was physically abusive. Okay. Her and Anthony's relationship is different because they're sticking together. They had their ups and downs. And I imagine They had some domestic beefs. My mom told me about them, and I try not to get involved in them. Now, take a look at Bijou Phillips. Okay. I try to stay out of the current headlines unless I'm giving you something completely different, and I am. Take a look at Bijou Phillips, guys. Her father, John Phillips, Mackenzie Baby, you blew your mind. That's a song by Red Cross. It's a huge. I love that song, by the way. I wish I could pull it up for you. It probably won't mean as much to you as it does to me. It's a band called Red Cross. They do a song called Mackenzie. It's about Mackenzie Phillips. She was doing cocaine with her father, John Phillips. That's Bijou Phillips' father as well. And there was sexual inappropriateness. Okay. So who did Bijou Phillips? Her father is John Phillips. He's accused of being sexually inappropriate. Who did she marry? She ended up marrying somebody who's accused of being sexually inappropriate. Do you see this? This is the recurrence. This is why I don't mind dominating women. In the 1980s, we saw it. I just laughed about it because you had the whole sadism, masochism. You had dominatrixes, right? They'll spank your ass, they'll paddle you. But what I know to be true is a lot of dominating women who are dominating out here, maybe their job, whatever job they're in, they're dominating out here. When they come home, they want to be babied, they want to be coddled, they want to be taken care of by a gentleman like me. So this is that psychosexual thing getting played out, but it's in a healthy way. You want to role play? Okay. You want to be a dominant when you come home? Are you mad? You want to dominate me sexually? Okay, we'll play that. Or you can role play, right? Where they're dominant at work and then they want to come home and be submissive. They want to be treated like a little baby, little kitty. Sorry, I don't mean to gross you out. Okay. So this is natural and there's nothing wrong with it. And I'm tired of these prudes, these holier than thou, alt-right assholes who are nothing but completely programmed with confirmation bias stories, right? Some of them are true, but how much are you going to get emotionally invested into these stories? Why would you get emotionally invested into them? These are people that you don't even know. The president doesn't even know you're alive. Laser eyes Biden. That guy doesn't, he barely knows much of anything. So what is that telling you about this process? Thomas Jefferson said that every 19 years we need to get a new constitution / a new government. Our government is supposed to be based on the Constitution. We know that's a joke. We know it's a joke. Okay. Smedley Butler said war is a racket. And he was supposed to replace, I believe, Eisenhower. They wanted Smedley Butler to come in and become president of the United States. But he said, our military doesn't work for us. Our military works for United Fruit Company. This is BS. I'll take a look at the Ukraine. I'm not putting anybody's political beliefs down, but part of this operation, and this is what people don't understand. If you look at an operation like it was an octopus, got to bring back slapstick. I'm trying to. It's multi-leveled, it's multi-tiered, and it's multifaceted. So you could say Operation Iraqi Liberation, Operation Iraqi Liberation Oil. You could say that was about what happened on the Metonic cycle, right? But we also know that part of that operation led to Fenty. And we also know that the president who was involved and got us involved in that, his father was involved in Iran-Contra, which also brought crack to the street, and his son brings Fenty, smokable Fenty, to the street. I'm not saying I am misspeaking. I'm sorry. He didn't bring it. He was in office when this was developed. Very interesting. Okay. We're putting this together, you and us, me, myself, and I, and the dark triad. That's right. I'm reading that academic paper right now. It's about the dark triad. If somebody's Machiavellian, which means manipulative, they're narcissistic, which means they're self-centered. And if they're a psychopath, which means they don't have any feelings, that's a dark triad. Well, isn't that most CEOs of Fortune 500 companies? That what they are? Isn't that how they get to the top of the corporation? Right? The dead corpse corporation. All right. So that's what we know to be true. And I think not many people are going to be fitting this dark triad trope. Okay. Not many people fit all three. Okay. I can tell when somebody's fronting a mile away. I can see them fronting. I call it fronting. That's exactly what it is. It's fronting. Okay. And I can see it from a mile away. You can't get one over on me. It's ridiculous. So I forgot my water bottle today. It's towards the end of the month. I'm broke. I have no money. I might have to stand out with a food sign in front of McDonald's. Maybe. I don't know. It's pretty tough for me right now. Like I said, I don't lie to you guys. I have nothing to lie about. And let me see if I got that guy's name right. I always love this guy. Taylor Pruitt Vance, actor. So I tell you, because I've been getting put down and targeted for so long, I actually at nighttime, sometimes I think I'm going to be murdered. This is a fact. My hand to God. God is the big poor. I have to remain heretical because I can't see this entire beautiful world summed up into one person. This doesn't work that way for me. I like the gnosis, which is the light, the darkness, which is right, the earth. Right? So, what's her name? She was a big actress too. Liv Taylor? I think that's her name. Yeah. Is that that's Liv Tyler. That is I don't know. She was in a movie with him. So it's supposed to be under videos. Is Liv Tyler, right? She was Steven Tyler's daughter. They did a film together. Now, this is independent cinema. I won't even come up. Oh my God. Let's see. Oh, you got me on a tear right now. I know this film exists. Oh, I got to lose my own page. You're like, no big loss. Oh boy. Liv Tyler, Taylor Pruitt Vance film, independent. Here it is. Okay, 1995. I know all these 90s independent films. I saw them at the theater. Okay, so it's called Heavy. That's right. Here's the trailer for it. This is the films I was going to see in the 90s. I loved cinema. And I loved cinema, I guess, until the double aughts when I came back to Michigan. And after becoming my father, living out on the streets, I died and came back to life with Narcan. I wrote part of Two-Legged Animal from jailhouses and stuff like that. I was set up, sexualized by people in the government. They targeted me. I was so destroyed that when I came home in 2004, I actually slept on the floor because I hadn't slept in a bed for so long. Okay. It was a long time since I slept in a bed. And when I did, they were these flop house beds in really crappy motels with bed bugs and stuff like that. That's how I lived. while I was writing, after I had done all this work as an actor, not as a cigarette girl. Okay. Get your fucking facts straight. Okay. And I was hurting. And so that's when my wife swooped in and she began to take advantage of me. And she was using this neurological weapon. And I thought I had PTSD from living out on the street. My father died of a brain aneurysm. I thought I was having a brain aneurysm for 7 years. And my wife covered it up. It's pretty brutal stuff. Here they are.
Big as an act. Nobody sees. I'm not fat. I'm your best.
He's in love with her. Looks like Shelley Winters.
Fat, Mom.
This is independent cinema from the 90s. It's called Heavy. Look at his eyes. Did you see his eyes? Taylor Pruitt Vance eyes. This is what I'm all about, man. I'm about cinema, guys. All right, so you guys get it's kind of corny. Okay. So you guys get the picture. Right? Whatever it's worth. Right. This is the cinema that I'm into. And now we're going into on-demand series because that's like a 40-hour film or whatever, you know what I mean? Depending on how many seasons you got. I'm all about that. And I know Linoleum Blown Apart is the best idea to ever butter their roll into town. That's me. I know it. And I'm not afraid to vote how I vote or have an opinion about something and laugh about being black pilled, red pilled. Laugh at somebody who's like, oh no, got to get the Fauci ouchie. So what? I'm not standing on a war line. This isn't war. We're all citizens of the United States. This isn't a civil war. But more and more people are starting to act like it. And what's worse is this confirmation bias. So once you start clicking in a certain direction, you have to be careful. You have to surf the Eggyverse, baby. Okay? You got to surf that Eggyverse. So if you start feeling a little bit too emotionally engaged in some of these stories, maybe you probably are. And don't forget, like I was saying, I'm not trying to be disrespectful here. Okay? Because I had a dick in my face when I was about 4 years old. And I don't appreciate it. It was a police officer's brother. Going around putting graffiti up. Oh, interesting. Just like the graffiti in my neighborhood over here. Right? So everybody wants to help children, but let's not forget, Epstein's Island was happening around the same time that these stories were coming out, that they were hurting small children, they were hurting babies, they were kidnapping babies, hurting very small children. But when do people start sexualizing people? Post-pubescent, okay? Post-pubescent. You have Lolita between 12 and 15. You have Tarantino talking to us about party girls in France. He wasn't saying he was indulging in it, but he said he saw it. He's like, whoa. When he came in, he was like a babe in the woods, going over to the Cannes Film Festival for the first time. He's like, whoa, right? These young girls are having sex. In Japan, Germany, and France, there is no age restriction, or there didn't used to be. Epstein's Island had post-pubescent girls on it, right? So it had all these celebs. So at the same time, here comes all this information. Now, I'm not taking anything away from the Finders cult. I'm not taking anything from the Franklin Institute that was going on. They were sexually exploiting children. Okay, I'm not taking anything away from that. But for the most part, what you're finding out is that these politicians are having sex with post-pubescent people. They're not eating prepubescent babies and murdering them and killing them and drinking their blood. Now, what's really interesting, Christy Teigen, she's been coming up in the alt-right, and she just did an ad on TV about her umbilical cord and how you should donate your umbilical cord for the stem cells. Okay. This is what we're talking about. Okay. You're talking about human sacrifice that's legal as far as getting abortions are concerned. And I'm utterly convinced, and I'm going to go forward trying not to talk about my drummer and my ex-wife. Let's just maybe be conscientious of that. We're putting these creepy people behind me. I remember I used to be the creep, right? But I'm putting these people in the rear view. Just get away from me and stay away from me. I can't remember what I was saying, but my wife, I believe she had too many abortions, and that's why she couldn't conceive by the time me and her start hanging out. You know what I mean? And she can't conceive because she had too many abortions. She had too much scar tissue down there. Okay. So this is just a fact. All right. Nobody's here to hurt anybody. Everybody needs to work, and everybody has their own idea of how this world works and how it operates. And you talk about these heady concepts, and you shouldn't be vilified for actually having a conversation, right? If it's not somebody's cup of tea, it's not their cup of tea. But, again, kicking people out of quote unquote Hollywood, like I said, Kevin Sorbo, buddy, you weren't kicked out for your politics. You're just, there's no projects for you. Just the way there was no projects, allegedly, for me in the 1990s New York, when I implore you, please comment below. Tell me one person who moved to another city who didn't know anybody. Look at what I'm doing right now, guys. I was just physically attacked down in the park down there. I don't even know if they're going to let me go there. They could say that, oh, you got into a scuffle. That's you. You need to go. It could be organized trying to kick me out. Oh, I got kicked out of Hollywood before anything. Right? I'm not worried about it. I'm here to work, and I'm here to do this show. I'm here to write Linoleum Blown Apart. It just comes pouring out of me. My writing will be pinned in the comments. And, because the lady came in and yelled at me, we're going to take it easy today. I'm going to get going. I'm really hungry, and I'm almost out of money, but that's okay. We keep going. Thank you very much for watching my show. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Listen at 1.5 while you drive.